Now let's take a look at the footer and see how we can get this to work the way we want it to as well. Well, a couple of things I want to do. First of all, if we go into our code view, you can see that the footer right at the moment doesn't really have much of anything inside of it except for this H3 and the paragraph. So let's first and foremost take a little bit of time to style exactly what the footer looks like and see how we can get it to work the way we want it to. Let's turn back to our design view and we'll go to our CSS styles yet again, down to the new CSS rule, open up the new CSS rule window, and this time we're going to be addressing the tag known as the footer tag. So let's come in here and we'll write in footer. Okay, pretty easy. Click OK. Still being defined in the same rule that we were dealing with up to this point, reset.css. The only other thing I really want to do with the footer is, first and foremost, just change the background color. Let's try that B5 one that we were using before. So B5, 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 always 6 values after the hash mark. If we click OK, you can see that, well, okay, it's a little bit darker, not really much of an issue. Also, because the elements above it are both floating, remember the article is floating left and the aside is floating left as well, I just want to ensure that this footer is going to be clearing those elements. So we always want it at the bottom of the elements, so I'm going to go to the category called box and we're just going to say clear both. Pretty easy, not really much else we want to do, so I'll click OK, and it looks pretty good, and you'll see that the footer has extended all the way now, unlike before where we didn't have this color differentiating between the two. Now we do. It's extended, it's looking the way we want it to. Next thing I want to do though is, if you remember, we have different sections at the top here, and it would be nice if our footer would also contain some of these sections as well. So let's go to our code view. And inside of our code view, if we scroll down to where the footer is, what I want to be doing is placing in some new information in that area. Well, to begin with, we can probably copy some of this section information that we have here. Remember, the section tag is just saying I'm using it to define a particular section. So there are sections up on top, and we want to create some sections down at the bottom. So I'm going to ask you to select one of these sections, and we'll copy it. And then we'll scroll down to the footer area. And within the footer area, I'm going to ask you to paste Command V or Control V on a PC. Your sections in here as well. Now we don't have to go too crazy with this, but I think I just want to hit the tab key so that I have my sections inside. You can even hit the tab key to put your H3 and your paragraph inside. And before we copy it another 2 times, let's just call this the footer subheader. And I'm going to select that section H3 that we just created. Command C or Control C on a PC. And let's paste this in another 2 times. Command V, Control V to paste. So now our footer has these 3 sections in it. So the only thing that we have to be aware of, if we hit refresh and we go into our design view, you can see, I've turned off live view, you can see that I have these sections in here which are exactly the same by default as the ones up on top. That's great, really not a problem at all. However, you'll notice that these sections had their own background color and now they are being repeated over here because we're addressing the section tags themselves. So a way to get around that is to specifically address each of these sections in the footer by giving them perhaps their own custom class. So let's do this. We'll come in here back to our source code and we'll go to the footer area, and in these sections let's create a new class. So double click class, and I'm going to call this class, well, something like foot box, a box inside the footer. I'll copy this information, notice from class all the way to the closing bracket. Command C, Control C on a PC. Put a space after the second section, paste it in, Command V, Control C, V on a PC, and do the same thing here. Now that we've got all three of these defined as foot boxes, we're going to go into our CSS styles, and after our main footer area, we'll come in and we'll say new CSS rule. And this new CSS rule will be addressing the foot box area. But if you remember, these were section tags that had the class of footbox. So I could even do it this way. I could remove the first area here, and I could say any section tag, no space, that has the .footbox class is what we're looking for. Make sure you spell it correctly. You're going to run into problems if you don't. Section.footbox. Okay, so let's click All Right. Come in here, and the only thing I'm really interested in at the moment is clearing the information that I happen to have. So let's take a look. If I come into the background color, let's give it a background color like the one we used in the footer, so B5, B5, B5. If I click OK, all of those will be a little bit darker. Good. So let's try something else though. If I were to come into this footer and now start pasting in some extra information, well, let's just see what I mean. For example, if I come in here and you'll notice in the code view, or let's go to the split screen view, you can see that this middle one has a paragraph that says, some text will go here. If I were to hit the return key and say some more text, let's take a look in our design view at what just happened. Well, this one got bigger than the other ones, so doesn't seem to be a problem, but it kind of is. I want any of these sections, no matter how much text happens to be in them, to always look like they're inside the footer. But since this is getting big, what the problem being is that the footer has collapsed upon itself. And you might remember when we were discussing floats that this is a problem that can be easily remedied with the use of the clear fix. Now, I could try the same clear fix that we used up on top with my navigation, but I'm going to show you a different way of creating a little bit of a clear fix area. Let's go into our code view. There's another way that we can do this. Still within the footer, I'm going to introduce a BR tag. And to this BR tag, I'm going to create a new custom class. Now, again, we generally don't do this. See, I have a custom class called ClearFix, and you could use this, but I want to show you the alternative method of working. And this one actually has code inside of the particular HTML file. So let's just call this one ClearMe. Now, the ClearMe class, once we close the BR, doesn't really do anything at the moment. If we go into our split screen view, we don't really see any difference. But let's go to our design, and once we apply a ClearMe class, so I'll click on New CSS Rule, we'll go to the class area, and we'll write .clearme. Again, remember, you can give any name that you want, an ID or a custom class. This is just something that I've come up with on the fly. And if we click OK, the only thing I want this thing to do is to actually clear. So we go to the category called box and we say clear both. So if I click OK, let's look at what happened. Now that we have an element clearing the three floating footer sections, this has allowed the footer to expand. It was collapsed upon itself, but now we are expanding it. So that's a very simple and easy fix to introducing content inside of the footer and ensuring that even if they are floating, the elements inside the footer will always be expanded and we can see what's inside of it. So no matter how much text I put in here, so I say even more text, notice that while it gets bigger, so too does the footer which is containing it. So let's come back in the next video and we'll start addressing what we can do to make the text look a whole lot prettier.